Claire, I've spent the day in the district and I've been really impressed with what I've seen. I've seen an amazing class being taught with kids doing remarkable work. I've heard kids from the first grade to the fourth grade talk about what it means to be a problem solver. I've seen a coach talking with a teacher about their collaboration, and I've been very impressed. And so I wanted to get your impression as the curriculum person about what it's taken to make this happen in Central Falls. I've been very impressed.
Well, we're very proud of our students, our teachers, our administrators, and our superintendent for the support for this problem-solving process that we've had in Central Falls. This is my fourth year here, and when I started, problem solving had been introduced in the district in just one school the previous year. With the new superintendent, she wanted it to go system-wide at the elementary level. So we started with all the elementary schools. We've trained all the teachers in both the philosophy of the program and the processes, and also in using the rubric to score the student work. And the administrators participated in that training just right alongside the teachers. So it's been a group effort, I must say, that everyone has cooperated with the training, the implementation. We've been so fortunate that the superintendent supported us having Deb Armitage here like 1 week a month for the past 4 years to model in classrooms for teachers. The principals were able to provide substitutes for other teachers to come in and observe that process. Time for Deb to debrief with the teachers about what they saw and what she did to make things happen in those classrooms. So it's been a process, and at the beginning the teachers were pretty wary about, well, Deb does a great job, but I don't know if I can do that. But they have really gained a lot of self-confidence. They're doing a wonderful job with the process, and their students are shining.
So the professional development has made a
tremendous difference. And it's been so nice that it's the consistency across the district and everyone is doing the same thing. It's not this school does one, problem-solving process and somebody else does something else. The consistency, and even the teachers have noticed that the students coming in, it's no longer they're training them in the process, because the students are learning the rubric in kindergarten, they're learning the processes. So each year they come in and they're more advanced with the process, so it's now focusing on having the students learn the content at their grade level and take it even further.
Doesn't have to teach anymore the processes.
The students know what a connection is.
Have got it.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and the teachers have been very impressed with their incoming students, how well they're very proud of their colleagues working diligently to prepare them for the next grade.
It makes all the difference.
It does. It really does. I mean, and they've seen the benefit of that consistency. So.
Right. Let me ask you, how have you gone about integrating the problem-solving process with the Rhode Island grade level expectations?
Well, we're fortunate to have math coaches at the elementary level, and they have been working very hard the past couple of years. After we started the problem-solving process, we just introduced problems sort of randomly and not really aligned to what they were doing with their core curriculum. But the past 2 years, we've worked very hard to align the problem solving with each of the units, the content in each of the units at each of the grade levels. So we've aligned it to our Rhode Island standards, the grade level expectations. The core curriculum is aligned to that, and now we've aligned the problem solving tasks in the Exemplar program right to those units. So the teachers are looking at, they're teaching the content and the concepts through the core program. The problem-solving tasks are supporting that content at the same time, and we have students keeping working portfolios of the problem-solving tasks. They have an assessment portfolio, so they do an assessment at the end of each unit for the core program and also a problem-solving assessment. And now we've aligned the released items from our state testing to those same units. So now they have a standardized test item to align to those as well.
Hmm.
So,
And now, of course, the Common Core is coming along. How will you deal with that?
well, we're starting that training this summer with an introduction to the Common Core standards for our teachers, but just our group of coaches and other districts have been looking at the alignment of our standards to the Common Core, but the mathematical processes piece of the Common Core fits perfectly with our problem-solving process. I mean, with the students doing verifications, and they want the students to actually be able to pursue and, you know, keep at solving a problem, so it's not something new for our students. So it'll mesh very well with the Common Core standards. I think the teachers will be thrilled that it's not something different they have to do now.
Mm-hmm. So you've been doing this over 3+ years
right.
now, and it's been consistent. What's been the impact on students and on teachers?
The students are so confident in their ability in mathematics these days because they know they are mathematicians. They understand that they can solve problems on their own. It's no longer, you know, just copy it this way and do it the one way I want you to do it. It's now I can choose a strategy to use. I don't have to do the same strategy as my partner. We can compare our strategies certainly, but and it matches very well with our core program because it's a conceptual program where the students are asked to solve something in a couple of ways. So that having that piece in the problem-solving process as well has supported both the core program and the students' abilities. So,
I heard that in the 4th grade today. Most of the students decided to solve the problem using a strategy by adding, but there was one student who, very creative, decided to solve the same problem using subtraction, and they both got to the same place, and it was a wonderful thing to see. How about the teachers? They've been working on this for 4 years too.
yeah, and they've been working very hard at it because they've been willing to sacrifice unassigned periods very often to come and work with Deb during the day, and after school workshops the first couple of years were voluntary to come after school to work with Deb, which they did, and now actually we've incorporated it into our mandatory professional development after school. So this year we've been able to really work with all teachers in clarifying the scoring process, and we've been benchmarking papers and looking at calibrations of our scoring. So that has helped tremendously because the teachers were always asking, you know, can you just check and see if I scored this correctly? So now being able to work with their colleagues on scoring together has really boosted their confidence in the scoring process. Because I think that's one of the areas they were, you know, not as confident in. So I've noticed that they've really improved in that this year. So.
If you had to share with others what some of the strengths as well as some of the roadblocks in this process are,
Well,
what would you share with them?
I would share that it's definitely got to be a collaborative process from the superintendent on down to the administrators, the teachers, even the teacher assistants have joined us in the professional development, and the coaches have been just tremendous in supporting the teachers through this whole process. So it's not just, it's a choice anymore. It's something that we are all involved in. So that has really helped move it a lot faster than would normally something new would take on. And also, really people have seen the results with their students. So I think once you see the students being successful at something, it gives the teachers that much more of an impetus to continue to work at it, so get better at it. So I think that's helped too, is just having the students be very successful with the program.
Any other roadblocks?
Our biggest roadblock is just enough time for math instruction in general. I mean, our school day, we keep adding things to our school day. I mean, luckily we now have a conceptual science program that sort of meshes with this idea of teaching math conceptually, but we still, so you need more time for something like that. And now we're adding intervention programs, and so we're losing, some instructional time. So it's hard. We have a pacing guide for the teachers to keep up at a certain pace, And it's getting harder because they keep losing time to keep it moving that quickly. But so
Yeah.
that's the biggest challenge, is to, get everything done that you needed to get done.
One part of the process that you mentioned that I don't think many people have a good understanding of is the calibration
Right.
process. Could you explain to people what the calibration process is, how it works, and what it's designed to do,
Okay.
really?
Well, the rubric itself has the different categories, like problem solving and reasoning and proof and communication, making connections. So each of those areas gets a score on the rubric. So a lot of times the teachers aren't sure if something is a connection, or if it's just something that the students added just to make it more. So it's sometimes they're not sure if they should, give the student a practitioner P for that piece, or if it's still an apprentice level student. So just trying to look through different students, and the other piece is that the students do it all differently. So it's not like everyone's doing it this way, so if it's not that way, it's not going to be correct. So they have to think about sort of outside the box in the way they look at the student work, and look at evaluating it in terms of each of those components, and then at what level the component is. And then when it's not at the practitioner level, what do we have to do for instructional purposes?
But does it mean that more than one teacher is looking at the
Oh
same
yeah, we
piece
do
of
it as a
student
group.
work?
Actually, it's been nice because we do it grade level spans, like K to 2 and 3 to 5 teachers.
Right.
So they can look at, the previous grade, their own grade, and the next grade, and see how it's progressing for each grade level too. So
And the agreement is what's important.
right, the
that-
agreement, because, and that has fostered great discussion. If someone says, no, that's a practitioner, no, I think it's an apprentice, well, why? And if you can support your reasoning, and this is what we say, this is what we want our students to be doing, can you support the reasons why you think this is not at that level, and justification? And the teachers have really been able to have, very good conversations about what the
Right.
expectation should be for a certain level.
And what they really need to do is to look at the student work and then point to the rubric
Right,
and say,
say,
this
is evidence
is
that,
the evidence of why I'm saying
Right.
this is an apprentice. and
That's correct,
practitioner
yeah.
And so on.
and actually we're now at the level is of, are they practitioners or experts? Because the kids are doing so much more now with their problem solving. So I think, wow, this student is using a lot of communication, a lot of words. Is it the expert level, or is it just the vocabulary that would be expected at their grade level? So now the conversation is practitioner or expert.
So it's getting
So
a
it's
little
getting
richer.
definitely moving on up.
So
So
that's excellent.
yeah.
It's okay, take your time.
Yeah,
Good afternoon and excuse
that's all
the
right. That's,
interruption.
yeah.
This announcement is for all non-certified
Just
staff.
say it.
There will be a special meeting held this evening at Calcut
Oh,
at 4 o'clock. It is very important
Oh.
you attend if you're able. We need your
Okay.
support. Again, that's non-certified staff.
So,
There's a special
she wants to
meeting
talk
this
about
evening
rationale,
at
scoring
4 o'clock at
rationales.
Calcut.
Oh,
Hope
yeah.
to see you there. Thank you.
So they know they have their tutorials.
so as part of that process, every unit comes now with scoring rationales.
Right.
And that must be part of the calibration process?
It
Do they
is,
use the-
yes, because what's, beneficial for the teachers, that each of the problems that the students are working on, in addition to the problem, it comes with the scoring rationale, as you mentioned, and it suggests what possible answers the students might have, and what would be scored as communication, some examples of words that they might use for in the process of solving that problem, or some possible connections that they may make. So it's not necessarily that the student has to have these things, but you may see this, but you may see something else that we haven't mentioned, but the teachers can add to that rationale and make it their own when they see something that they'd like to
So,
add
so
to
it's
it.
really three pieces now. It's the rubric,
right.
which we just talked
Mhm.
about, and it's the scoring rationale,
Now.
which describes
Right.
what a particular level of student
Mhm.
would do on this particular problem. And then it's the student work itself.
Right,
And so it's those three pieces
pieces,
that really.
right. And the other piece actually is on the assessments that the students do. We've collected student sample papers and scored those, so they now have anchor papers to look at when they're scoring the assessments at each unit as well.
Mhm.
So that's been helpful for the teachers too, because they can say, oh, well, I see why, because the anchor papers explain why this is a practitioner rather than an apprentice or vice versa. So that's been helpful for the teachers too, to look at the anchor papers on the assessments.
Right. So there are the ones that come with exemplars, and then there are the additional
Right.
ones that
Mhm.
you've
That
collected
we've
over time.
collected.
Yep. That's, so they made it their own in a way.
Yes. Mhm.